I got back from that expedition, right? And I just felt like I needed some decompression time. And I started to really ask myself a lot of tough questions. What am I doing with my life? What am I doing in these mountains? You put so much time and effort in, and does any positive impact really come from climbing mountains? Right? That was a tough question. I started to really think about that. I didn't know. I actually hung up my climbing boots for a couple of years. But then I got my answer just a few years later when I went to some mountains called the Ruwenzori Mountains. And this is my favorite climbing story, and I'm so excited to share it with you guys. But the Ruwenzori Mountains, they border Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. So kind of a sketchy area, just because these two countries have been at war on and off for decades. And at one point, they shut off access to the Ruwenzoris because rebels from the Congo were using the Ruwenzoris as a staging area to come in and invade western Uganda. So they shut off access to the mountains. And the unfortunate thing about that is that working in these mountains as a porter or a trekking guide or a high-altitude cook is the only source of income for people in western Uganda. The Bakanjo tribe. So the Bakanjos live in western Uganda. They work in these mountains. When you shut off access to the mountains, they have no way to earn a living. The whole area was basically starving to death, and the Red Cross was going in and dropping off food supplies. Well, these two countries eventually signed a peace treaty. So they opened up the mountains for climbing again, and I went over there for the first time in 2005 to climb. First thing I noticed when I got to the base of these mountains is that women were doing all of the physical labor everywhere. Like everywhere I looked, I saw women working. They were out in the farmlands digging up food for their families. They were walking down the dirt roads carrying big supplies of food and water and firewood on their heads. Everywhere I looked, I saw women just doing a ton of work. So when I went to the mountaineering office to get a permit and guides and local porters to escort our group, I naturally said, hey, could we get women guides and porters to go with us? And they looked at me like I was from another planet, and the guy said, there are no women guides and porters in the Ruwenzori Mountains. And I said, oh, well, why not? And he said, it is taboo in our culture. Amongst the Bakanjo people, it is taboo for local women to go to the mountains. And I said, oh, okay, well then how do they earn money? And he said, women cannot earn money, they're owned by men. I was like, what are you talking about? And I actually found out that in western Uganda, women were considered property of men. They're owned by men. They have no rights, no land rights, no ownership rights. They can't own homes or anything like that. They have no access to education or health care. And as a result, the average life expectancy is only 42. Well, this sounded like kind of a raw deal to me, so I just started asking people around the village, hey, why can't Bakanjo women work in these mountains? And they said, well, because we have always been told local women cannot go to the mountains. I said, yeah. I know you've been told that. Who told you that? They said, our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents. We have always been told local women cannot climb the mountain. I said, yeah, I got that part too. What's the reason? And nobody knew. They just kept saying, because it's always been this way. So I thought, well, maybe it's time for this little tradition to change. And I called a meeting with the head of the guiding service, the head of the park service, and the head of the local village. And I said, here's the deal, you guys. If you let your local women work in these mountains and earn money like the men do, your entire community will benefit because there'll be more capital flowing into this region. If there's more capital flowing into this region, then maybe you'll be able to afford things you can't afford right now, like access to health care, education for your children. None of the kids in this area were going to school because their parents couldn't afford the school fees. The men were pretty amazing and pretty forward-thinking, and they said, you know, that sounds logical to us. We understand your thinking. But the problem is, local women, they cannot climb these mountains because they're just too weak. So I was like, okay, here's the deal. If you will allow me, I will walk up and down these dirt roads and I'll recruit whoever wants to go. However many women want to go, I will take all of them up into these mountains and work with them and train them to be porters and trekking guides in the Ruwenzori Mountains. And if they can make it, if they can climb the mountain like the men do and carry the weight on their back, you have to hire them and pay them the same wage that you pay the local men. And they said, well, you can try it, but they are never going to make it. Well, the next day, a big group of women showed up, and they said, you know, we don't know if we can make it, but we do want to try, because we have lived at the base of these mountains our entire lives, and we have never been allowed up. We want a shot at a better quality of life for ourselves and for our children and our future generations. So I've got a quick 5-minute video, if we could run that, to show you what happened when we went up there.
Traditionally, it was believed, we were even being told by our grandparents that women are not supposed to come this way.
It was a taboo for women to go up the mountain. Anything beyond the kitchen and that, it is not a domain.
We usually look at women as weak people.
Women, in most cases, don't do what men do. They can't do what? They can't do that kind of work.
There is no business which we can earn. We have to struggle for life.
A huge reason why we're here is to try to make a difference for the local women in the Ruwenzori mountain areas. It's been a very tumultuous area, a lot of civil war. The region's just been devastated. Women's lack of access to capital has led to poverty and social injustice. So we came up with the idea of training them to be porters and trekking guides in their local mountains. By establishing themselves in that industry, they may have a shot at becoming financially independent and having a decent quality of life in the future. We stopped by Ruwenzori Mountaineering Service headquarters to tell them that we wanted to go trekking and that we wanted to hire women porters. We showed up and we were surprised by a big group of the women who were incredibly enthusiastic about doing this climb with us.
All these women you've seen, they want to go with you, but they have no chance to.
There are others who are a bit weak, those who are a bit weak.
Could we let the weak ones try? Every woman who came here for a job today, we want to hire.
Okay.
I want to take as many as want to come. However many want to come, that's how many I want to take.
Okay.
The Ruwenzori Central Circuit is a very challenging trek. It's steep climbing and big mud bogs and ladders and big tree roots that you're climbing over, and it goes up to over 14,000 feet. The fact that these women had never climbed it before, and they were able to strap 12 kilograms on their back and complete the trekking circuit with a smile on their face was just amazing. Summit Day was pretty interesting because the whole environment really changed. It's pretty much just rock and ice. So all of a sudden you remember, hey, we're up on a high mountain, we're up here at altitude. A lot of things could go wrong. It's not any lush green trip anymore. It's cold, it's stark. You have to watch every step. It was just a lot of rock, snow, and ice on Summit Day, and that's the stuff I love.
Yay!
Malabina, your first time!
Yeah, my first time!
Having Malabina there really made me think about how cool of an experience the whole thing was. I mean, it was her first time to the summit, and it was very symbolic of the progress that women are making in general.
Oh yes! Oh yes! Oh yes!
They are very happy to come with that lady, Alice. Because the ladies are not supposed to come here, that's why they are very happy. They are really excited. That's why they are dancing.
That team of women showed an entire village that women can do anything that they want to do. They can do anything that men can do. They can break through traditional barriers that have been hard to cross in the past.
In our history, in our culture, women are not supposed to come to the mountain. But since they have started coming, we have proved there is no problem. A lady can come to the mountain because of Alice. You are the one who have discovered it.
If you had not come to ask for women, we couldn't have got that chance. But since you have come, things are changing.
They are respectful now. They respect us more.
When we got down from the mountains and we were coming back into town, people were coming out of their huts and they were cheering for them and they were clapping. I felt like I was watching a Super Bowl team after they won the championship game and they were back in their hometown during the parade. They were just so strong and so proud. It was such a difference in their personality from the beginning before they started the trek, and then at the end of the trek when they were like, yeah, I did it.
It is now Rwenzori becoming the mountains of the ladies. And I think for the next time, you will bring more ladies than this. You are going to bring more ladies, no men. Yeah.
I'm very grateful to stand here and say a word of thanks to you. Even the male support staff say thank you very much for the work you have done.
Thanks, you guys. Thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you. Oh, thanks. Thanks. Oh, you're so kind. Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate that. Thank you. So you see, climbing mountains does have impact. And that's Malabina. She was the first local woman to go to the top of Uganda's highest peak. And it was hilarious because she had no idea what that sign even meant. I was like, here, hold this. The big takeaway for me from this experience is ask the question. Because it really wasn't that hard to change things for women in Western Uganda. It just took one person to ask one question. And frankly, I was kind of surprised that nobody had ever asked it before. And just because something has always been done a certain way for years and years and years doesn't mean it's the best way to do things today or the best way to do things moving forward. And I think the only way progress happens is when people ask questions.